Loving greetings to all of you, dear friends, dear participants. This bright morning, we are going to have a presentation by Susanne Palermo, and the focus will be on self-sacrifice from I to we to one. I will give you a few words about Susanne. Susanne worked in the editorial field for children as illustrator and project designer on a freelance basis. And since since then, she first heard about Satyasai education in human values in 1989. She adopted the program in her professional work and as a life compass. Ever since, her focus has been on developing value-oriented material for children, that is, stories, songs, activities, and material support for teachers, parents, and all those willing to foster in their students and families a human values education and a deeper perspective into life's marvels and mysteries. She is the author of the book, The Story of Marty, A Journey on Planet Earth. This is an ongoing project which has given way to a variety of didactical material. Additionally, since 2018, she publishes articles and worksheets dedicated to human values, both online and on a monthly basis through a local Swiss magazine. Susanne has been collaborating for many years with the ISSE, our Institute of South Europe, and is currently its vice director. Over the years, she has contributed to the development of the EduCare magazines and the Institute's handbook, and has participated in many seminars in South Europe as a speaker. Since 2019, she collaborates with the Swiss Peace Forum that is held in Lugano, offering workshops to students from elementary to high school age, and is the co-founder of the open space Arte e Valori, which is an initiative carried out with her husband and is situated in Giubiasco. The space organizes free exhibitions, cultural meetings, and human values workshops for children, to which all are welcome, from art lovers to children, with special attention to the elderly and people with disabilities. Now, I would like to invite our dear Susanne. Good morning, Susanne.
Good morning, dear Vassiliki. How are you?
Thank you very well. We are waiting eagerly for your wonderful presentation today.
Thank you so much for this introduction. And I read a message in our chat that a participant has written that we are ready to become one. So I think this is a very good start.
Yes, of course. Wonderful.
So I will begin by sharing my screen. So of course, hello everyone, good morning. It's an honor for me to be here again with you today and to cover this extremely exciting, I would say, topic, very lofty topic, self-sacrifice, that leads us through a path from I to we and to one. I would like to begin, before I share the slides with you, with explaining why I am the picture on the right of this image You will see many trees during this presentation. Of course, the tree is emblematic of sacrifice. We know this. It is a symbol of self-sacrifice. But these trees are very special because they were designed and colored by 12-year-old children. And as I mentioned in a previous session, during the month of May, June, we will have an exhibition dedicated to human values, and we will display the work of over 250 children from elementary to middle school, and there will be one class from a lyceum. So I was there recently. I visited 3 classes, and they shared their work with me. And when I saw these trees, I thought they were just perfect for today's presentation. So I received permission, and I'm very happy to share them with you. So today we will begin where we left off last time. We had a beautiful session dedicated to the 4th tenet of ISSSE-SE education human values, which is sealing on desires. And this was presented and carried out by our dear Brigitte and Esma. And we ended more or less, one of the last slides actually summed up the meaning, the significance, the purpose of sealing on desires as a path that teaches us, that helps us practice detachment, that leads us to detachment and to sacrifice. And we see that the word sacrifice, we learned and we know that the word sacrifice, and it's very important in the context of ISSSE-SE education to understand its full meaning, comes from the Latin word sacra facere, which means to make sacred acts, to do something in such a way that it becomes sacred. And our dear Esma had synthesized this in a very, very practical way by saying that is helping others. So today's session, our topic, our path, is a path of transformation. From I to we to one. And of course, we are not talking about a change in our form, in our shape, but mostly a change in our approach to living, in our attitude, a shift in our outlook, in our perspective. And what is important is to be ready, because it does depend on a dynamic and conscious will. It is triggered by our own involvement and participation. So I would like to begin by sharing a beautiful story with you, as this story exemplifies the meaning of self-sacrifice in a very simple way, and the story is something you can also use in the future with children, your students, your grandchildren, or whoever. And it is the story of 2 brothers. It is a popular legend from Korea. Now, one of the brothers is married, the other one is not. And this is what the story says. I will read it to you. We can read it together so it's easier for you to follow. There were once 2 brothers that had a plot of land where they cultivated wheat. They worked hard day and night and divided the harvest. One year after they gathered their crops, the 2 brothers bid each other good night and carried their bags of wheat home. In the middle of the night, one of the 2 brothers suddenly awoke and thought, "My brother is married and has 2 children. He has worries and necessities that I do not have. He needs the wheat more than I do. I will secretly take him some bags of my own share. If I were to offer them to him, I'm sure he would refuse." So he got up during the night and he took a few bags of his wheat and took them to his brother. Shortly later, the other brother woke up. "It's not fair for me to have half of the wheat of our fields. My brother does not know the joys of family life. He needs to go out and enjoy himself, and this costs money. I will take part of my wheat to him, and this he did. Since then, every year the two brothers take a share of their wheat to each other, secretly during the night, and never understand why, when they wake up in the morning, they continue to have the same number of bags of wheat. Okay. So this story is really so sweet and so beautiful. And as you have seen, it is a story about love. And it is telling us that when love is pure and selfless, there are no expectations and it looks for no reward. And it emphasizes, it draws out that a work that is sacred is a sacrifice. Now, the two brothers, of course, have shared their bags of wheat, and then the wheat returned out of their love. But they not only shared bags of wheat, they shared many human values. They shared care for others, for one another. And of course, they did this in a very empathetic way. They were able to put themselves in their brother's shoes to understand what they needed in their lives and how they could help them. And to do so, this also called for attachment on their part, a detachment which is dictated also by our contentment, our satisfaction. We are happy with what we have, and we can put a ceiling on our desires and save something to give to someone else. And we have seen that they did this with extreme humility. Their empathy was very humble, because one part of this story, which I feel is the most important, is that they went to take the bags of wheat to their brothers during the night. They gave them secretly and silently. There was no boasting. They didn't even ask them, because they knew that their brother would probably have refused. And one value which I find very important in this story is also consistency, because many times we may have an idea, a feeling, we may wish to help someone to do something. It really may be triggered by a feeling of love, but then we don't carry it out. We lack of consistency. We lack of unity of what we think, say, and do. So this is very important. The brothers did what they wanted to do, and they carried it out fully. So to make sacred, this is now a little bit of a wordplay in English, but I'd like to also emphasize it does not mean to give in. Give in English means that we bow our head in a sign of defeat and let others take over. And it does not mean to give up in the sense that we renounce our efforts. We stop endeavoring for a cause. To sacrifice means simply to give, and it means to give out of love and to give consciously. We are present 100%. It is a conscious will, act of our will, honestly and openly. And what is it that we give? We give a gift, an offering, and I like to use the word benefaction, which again comes from Latin, which means a good action. I like this word because it echoes, it reminds me of another word, which is blessing, because a sacrifice, a good action, an action made out of love is a blessing for those who receive and those who give. And what's important to remember is that, as Brigitte also stressed during the presentation on sealing and desires, we are prompted to share, to give, to help others, not only because we have the resources. It is really dictated out of love. So it's important to put all of this into the context of education, and specifically Satyasai, education, human values. Satyasai says that education must instill the fundamental human values. and it must broaden the vision to include the entire world and all mankind. Education must equip man to live happily without making others unhappy, to evaluate things, pleasure and possessions correctly without prejudice, and to fix one's attention ever on the highest and most precious achievement of all, in his words, the divine victory. And we could say that this means becoming that which we truly are. And we know that the goal, the aim of Satyasai education lies in these words, that we aim, we would like to help children bring forth, elicit the inherent goodness within the child. And this goodness expresses itself and manifests itself in human values. And this also reminds us that Satyasai also says that we need to remember that we are not one, but three. The one you really are, he says, the body. We see ourselves reflected in a mirror, and this is who we think we are, the body. We identify ourselves with the body. And then the one others think you are, the mind. Why the mind? Because it is the mind that dictates our behavior, our attitude, the way we speak, our choices in life. And then he says, and the one you really are, this essence, which of course we can define as spirit. So this process is a process of transformation that leads us to the deeper meaning of educare and the Satyasai education in human values pedagogy, which is, and we know this, to elicit one's true nature, to know thyself. And we also know that this program is not concerned with facts and figures, but really with bringing forth, as I just said, this inherent humanness from within the child. And this process leads us to unity, to a deeper understanding of unity, to wholeness and to oneness, and more practically to detachment and humility, and of course love, which is the undercurrent of all human values. So the goal is to broaden our vision and become more and more inclusive. So this is why I chose this beautiful tree on the right, which is a mosaic, because if we focus our attention on the mosaic pieces, of course, we will only see the piece, the different individual pieces. But if we broaden our vision, we will manage to see the full picture of the tree and how all these pieces are needed to bring it together. So we need to develop a deeper, higher perspective to see clearer. It is like adding pixels to the definition of our photos. When we add more pixels, we add more details, we can embrace the whole picture and understand it much more. The quality is enhanced. So we need to raise awareness, and as we do this, our consciousness actually opens and expands until we really become our pure essence. And in all this, what happens? This is a very metaphysical topic. Multiplicity disappears into the one. So all of this is the result of a strong effort, our will to go through this process. And I like to compare it with the gardener, the effort that a gardener puts in his garden, this initial thrust of caring for the soil, preparing the soil, working in the fields, planting the seeds, calls for a lot of effort on the part of the gardener. And then one day, all of a sudden, the seeds sprout and blossom, and the harvest. It is time for harvest. So of course, the seeds we are referring to are human values. I would also like to put this in relation with the 4 tenets. We have been through the 4 tenets during our recent sessions, and it's important to see how these 4 tenets have a thread. They are united by a thread of unity. And we know that this process, this program, this path of human values is offering us information because it aims at our transformation. So we have been through unity of faiths, unity of 3HV, which is unity of heart, head, and hand, unity in diversity. And our last session was dedicated to sealing on desires. And to stay in line with this thread of unity, we could refer to this, I am suggesting this, as unity of purpose. Because as we learn to detach, as we learn to put a ceiling on desires and to share more and more with others, this becomes a purpose that can unite us, also as a community, and we can learn to love all and serve all. Of course, these tenets are principles and they are connected to the human values. So unity of faiths, we can see how it is connected to the value of truth, because our search for meaning in all the different paths, religious paths, spiritual paths, we are asking ourselves, who are we? Why are we here? What is the meaning of our life? And we are trying to secure the principles. And these principles are the roots of our life-giving tree. And of course, once we have secured the principles, we can connect them, we can align them with ourselves and bring unity to the way we think, the way we act, the way we speak. And this builds our character and it builds a lot of self-confidence. And this makes the trunk of our life-giving tree strong and upright. And then, of course, we reach peace, the value of peace, which we can find in the unity of diversity, which we can compare to the foliage, to the leaves on our tree, to the harmony and abundance. And then we reach seeding on desires, which is the fruit of our life-giving tree, self-sacrifice and love. And we know that when we practice all these values, the outcome is non-violence, an attitude of non-violation of natural laws, of our pure essence. So there is a thread of unity in our path, and our path is aimed at enhancing the quality of our lives. So again, if we look at the one truth of all religions that we have seen in the first tenet, unity of religions, unity of faiths, we can think about the different faiths as different vessels filled with water. And on the top of the water, we see the reflection of the sun. We think it is a sun, a different sun, but there is only one sun reflected in all the vessels. And in the same way, we can consider that there is only one current, that though the forms and shapes may be different in creation, there is one current that is flowing through this diversity. And all this, the principles, the values that are brought together make us into one unit of heart, head, and hand. So love is the giving tree. And Satyasai says, one should enter into society and make, and I'm sorry, I have problems with my computer this morning. One should enter into society to serve and make the society an ideal one. Give up selfishness and self-interest. Only when the society is happy can you be happy. All your joys and sorrows depend on the society. If society is not happy, an individual can never be happy. Therefore, you should continuously aspire for the welfare and prosperity of society. And he also has said many times, he has given us this beautiful image of the mansion of life. He has said that the mansion of life, for the mansion of life, self-confidence is the foundation, self-satisfaction the wall, self-sacrifice is the roof. So we are again connecting to seating on desires. The ceiling is a roof. And self-realization is the life. Of course, when we mention self-confidence, self-satisfaction, we are referring to that confidence that is born, that is triggered, thanks to the connection that we have with this inner source of joy, of beauty, of goodness, which is where human values reside. We become confident and we trust this self. And it is the same with self-satisfaction. We are able to detach. We are able to put a ceiling on desires because this inner source of joy is so satisfying for us that it allows us to release and to renounce many other things. So transformation is threefold. It takes us from the I with that individual sphere that we learn through this process of human values to elevate in heart and hand and bring to a state of contentment. Then it takes us to we, to the social sphere, and we can enhance our understanding of unity in diversity by learning to cooperate more together. This really helps us develop a very strong sense of community. And then until we reach the one, which is unity with the self and with the one self in all. And this also reminds me how Satyasai has told us many times that there are three kinds of love. There is selfish love, and he has compared this to a light bulb in a room. Of course, this room is my room, and the light bulb sheds its light only around myself. So this is a selfish kind of love. And then there is the light of the moon. Of course, this extends more than a light bulb in our room, and this can be compared to a form of love that is mutual. I give, I love because you love me. I give because I probably expect something in return. It is a little bit bigger. It expands more, but it is still restricted until we finally reach selfless love, the love of the sun and its rays that go out and reach everyone without distinction. So to make sacred the sacrifice, any act done with love becomes selfless, egoless, and searches for nothing in return. And because of this is what we try to do through the Human Values Program. This is what we aim at, to kindle in the children their understanding, their connection to the principle of love, so that they can raise awareness. And in turn, what does this mean? What does this develop? It develops a moral, ethical, and spiritual perspective, more and more inclusive outlook. And this also helps them develop a good sense of community and a sense of responsibility towards their role in society. Because we belong to society, we are trees of the same forest, that their roots are all interconnected. We communicate with each other continuously. We are limbs of society and cells of the same organism called world. But there is a great obstacle. Now we know that everything is interconnected. We know this more and more also from a scientific perspective. However, there is an obstacle, because if we look around, this unity is not. We see a lot of separation and conflict in our society. So what is the cause behind this? Satyasai says that true education is that which directs and counsels the mind and intellect of man towards the earning of pure happiness. He adds that education must liberate man. We have seen this before. It aims at to broaden our vision. So it must liberate us from the shackles of cowardice, pettiness, greed, hate, narrow-mindedness, and from the limits of I and mine. So what is this obstacle? Yes, it is our ego. There is something that separates us from all the rest. It continues. So here, this is me. And it is not so much our ego, but it is our attachment to our ego. And I am a unit made of head, heart, and hands. I have a form, I have a name, I have a mental frame, and an inner core or current that we can refer to as a spiritual heart. And I am just like you. And when we come together, of course, we have we. And a unit, what is a unit? A unit is an individual thing or person regarded as complete, as a whole, but it is also part of a whole or a group. So we can group in units. We can come together. Here we are, two individuals, two units that make another unit. And this could be a family, two friends. Or here we have three individuals that have come together. Again, a family, a group of friends, a small team. And then, of course, society is made up of individual units that come together. And perhaps they come together to follow a common purpose. And we also reach in this process a beautiful level of unity in diversity. Then what is keeping us from achieving this oneness that we yearn for? What is keeping us from achieving peace in our society? Something is still keeping us separate. These units, these groups, very often are going their own way. We are missing a meeting point, or we may have a meeting point that brings us together as this beautiful group here, this beautiful unit. But if we look closely, the individual smiles are still separated by the borders. So the great obstacle, of course, is our ego, is our attachment to our ego, our attachment to I and mine, my programs, my desires, my emotions, my thoughts, my opinions. And this ego binds us so strongly that it can create an energy that makes us feel very contracted, and it does not allow us to give freely. And since it binds us so tightly, and ego brings with it many, many, many other aspects, it binds us to these, what we could call alleys. Jealousy, envy, greed, pride, attachment, vanity, anger, these are all the consequence of our attachment to our ego. And because of this, our perspective becomes very tight and narrow. And of course, all of this put together does not allow us to feel free, to give freely, to allow that inner current of love to flow. And ego continuously is diverting its attention away from others and towards me. So what should we do? We need to release, we need to detach, we need to release ourselves from this identity of I and mine. We need to broaden our narrow outlook and follow this path from I to we until we finally reach the one. So the ultimate sacrifice is to renounce our ego. How do we do this? Of course, we do this, we attempt, we try, we endeavor to do this through a program dedicated to human values, through a program of self-development, self-understanding, self-knowledge. As has said, values are for education. Education is for life. Life is for love. Love is for man. Man is for spirituality. Spirituality is for the world. World is for peace. It is all interconnected, and the source of this process begins within the human values. So through this path and program, of course, we learn to work on ourselves, to control our senses, our thoughts, our emotions, our wants, our desires. And emotions are very important. During one of our meetings recently, George reminded us that this word emotions comes from ex-motion, which brings us outward. It goes outside, while we would like to connect to the source of goodness, truth, and beauty. We need to go within. So we really need to help ourselves and children to control their emotions. And this in turn leads us to detachment. Detachment from me and mine. And to do this, we also learn to pinpoint our true needs and understand the difference between material needs and spiritual needs. And let's say a key to all of this is to help us more practically is to let go of wanting the last word, of enforcing our opinion. But through this process, we should always remember that there's one thing we should never sacrifice, and that is our own principles, because the principles are the roots, are the basis of our own self. So self-sacrifice is actually guiding us, encouraging us to love all, serve all. And it's also inspiring us, telling us to not look out of a peephole. A peephole is that little, as you see in the image, opening in a door. You know that when we look out of that little opening, what do we see? We see just this much, and we lose the opportunity of embracing the immensity of life. So the founder of this program gives us very simple advice. He says, work for a greater cause than yourself. Put yourself aside. Give more of yourself. Self-sacrifice is, of course, in one word, love. And it can be translated, it is translated, it is very, very connected to selfless service. And we will see this in our next session. This will be exemplified, this will be deepened in our next session. And it follows the steps, it helps us as we move forward. We go through self-confidence, which is the foundation of our lives, self-satisfaction, until we reach self-sacrifice, this ability to put a ceiling on our desires, to put ourselves aside, and to look at the full picture, not only at the little pieces that are closer to us, but to expand, broaden our outlook. Of course, there can be many, many examples. Today we have highlighted with the image of the tree, the example of the tree. There could be many more to highlight in nature. There is the example of mothers and fathers. We know how mothers and fathers and especially mothers, they sacrifice their lives, their entire lives sometimes for their children. And recently I can say that I was talking with my mother. She was 84 at the time. This was not too long ago. And she confessed for the very first time in her life that she had actually wanted to go to the university and study archaeology. That had been her dream. And I realized only then how much she had sacrificed to bring up her 5 children out of love for her children and to stay near to her husband. And there are many, many other stories we can find. And I feel that this story of my mother, for example, helps us remember that we do not always know what is behind the choices of many people, especially the people who are near to us. And many times there is a deep sacrifice, a deep act of love to go towards the needs of others. Now, if we would like to talk about brothers and sisters, siblings, there's a beautiful story that is about Albrecht Dürer. He was brought up in a family of 8 children, and he and his brother had wonderful artistic skills, but they could not study because the family was too poor. So the story says, and it's so beautiful, that the 2 brothers got together and they decided that they would help each other study at the academy. So for 4 years, one of them would work in the coal mine to pay for the studies of his brother, and then they would switch. And this is what they did. Albrecht Dürer, who became immediately a famous artist, he was from Germany and was born in 1471, went to study before his brother. And after 4 years, he by then was a very, very famous artist. He went back to his brother and he said, now it's your turn. Now I will go and work in the coal mine and you can take over. You can go and study and develop your artistic talent and skills. But his brother showed him his hands, and he showed him his hands that were totally ruined by having worked 4 years in the coal mine. And he said, I would never be able to even hold a paintbrush or a pencil in my hand. So you continue, and I will continue to support you in this beautiful work you are doing. And Albrecht Dürer, to honor his brother, there is this beautiful drawing illustration of the hands, which is known as the praying hands. And this takes us back to how a sacred act, because this sacrifice of his brother allowed him to become a great artist, and how a benediction, a sacred action, is also a blessing. And we can see this in these hands that are praying, these praying hands. So anyone who works for a cause, sharing their time and resources, energy, without any expectation, is acting out of love. And this is a sacrifice. Personally, I feel what has helped me over the years is also, I feel that this is very necessary to always be ready to adjust. I feel that this is maybe the first step towards a true sacrifice. To be ready to adjust, and Satyasai has many times stressed how it is important to understand before we adjust. Because if we just adjust, sometimes it can be a compromise. If we understand, we are acting out of love. And this, of course, entails responsibility and commitment, and this capacity to understand and adapt and adjust, which then brings with it the need sometimes to renounce to something of your own for the other, of course, helps us develop flexibility, patience, resilience, forbearance, and naturally love. And we can naturally also compare sacrifice to duty. Many times we renounce to something, we sacrifice our time and energy, our skills, our presence for others, also out of a sense of duty. So my experience has taught me that I do need to ask myself some questions sometimes. To ask myself if I have enough, if I really have enough time, energy to give. And mostly if I have enough resolve to maintain my commitment. But then again, I remember that ego is contraction, love is expansion. And if this is true, and I know it is, I believe it is, then there will be more and more love to give. There will be more and more time and space to give. There will be more and more grace to give. And this brings us to the beautiful words of Satyasai, that duty without love is deplorable. Duty with love is desirable, whereas love without duty is divine. And many times when we sacrifice out of love, actually when we sacrifice out of love, we do not even refer to it as a sacrifice. We are just doing something we feel we feel necessary, that we are prompted to do. So this process takes us from I to we to one. It takes us from personal identity, the I, to this sense of sameness, this unity in diversity to the we. And then it helps us work at those gaps that are still separating us until we finally merge into pure love, which of course is no identity. And as I said before, this can be connected, of course, to, this can encourage us, it is guiding us to be love and to love all and serve all. And this beautiful image on the right illustrates this perfectly, illustrates the path from I to we to one so beautifully. It was done again by a 12-year-old girl. And we see the human figure that is holding the planet in the middle of the universe. And all of this, there is this thread of unity that is bringing everything together. And what is the thread made of? It is made out of values: happiness, truth, harmony, trust, contentment. Satyasai says, all men are cells in the one divine organism, in the divine body. That should be your faith, your fortune, your fort, and your fullness. And as we learn to broaden our vision and grasp more and more details and become more inclusive, this is what we will manage to see. And we can end by saying stars are many, but the sky is one. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear Susanne, for your inspiring presentation. And I am sure you have been inspired yourself while preparing this work, and you have been one with pure light. I really feel so.
It is always such a beautiful opportunity to work at these presentations, to work in our team also, to have our exchanges, because we add on to our own insights with the insights of others, the understanding of others. So the process itself is always so enriching and so rewarding. But definitely when we are faced with such a lofty topic, it takes you within. It takes you within. And something I have always tried to do in my profession is to find a simple way to say sometimes things that are not simple at all. So because when we need to talk with children, we need to find a way also to express these values. So I hope it was.
It's really wonderful, Susanne. Thank you again.
Thank you, dear Vassiliki.
Now, dear friends, we will have questions and answers. And if you like to use the chat and write your questions, please do so, and Susanne will answer.
I think I saw a question about ego identity, but I'm not sure.
I see a question here. Thank you very much, dear Susanne. A wonderful presentation indeed. Can you please share a personal experience of expansion from I to we to one?
I to we to one. Now, this path, as we said before, is strictly very much related also to something very practical, which we can define as selfless service. And but then we said also that it's an approach, it's an attitude. There have been definitely some experiences in my life when I set myself aside. I feel that the key is to really, there is this effort sometimes because our ego is very strong. So we need to really make an effort to set ourselves aside. And this has happened during my life. It even happened, I can say very honestly, when I got married. I was carrying out an activity in Milano, and I was very much involved in that, and I really renounced that. I set it aside out of love for the new life that was beginning. And I knew that my presence, my time, my energy was needed in a different way. So I feel that this is very important. And there are many other experiences, even recently, for example, but they are all connected to selfless service, to the fact that we are open to others, and we realize that we are truly part of one family. And this happened to me recently because when the Ukrainian families started to come to Switzerland as refugees, my husband and I opened our home. We were able to give hospitality to 2 small families with 2 children who had unfortunately cancer. And I work at the Cancer Institute in Ticino, so we decided to offer hospitality to these 2 families, and this went on for 8 months. Now they went back home. What I would like to say in all this is that all through this experience, I truly felt this sense of oneness. I remember when they arrived, we welcomed them. We felt in our heart that we were welcoming someone of our family, and this feeling can only become broader and broader. And so you do feel that when you are talking with these people, you are really talking with yourself, that we are all interconnected, that we are all one. It is not so simple to express what one may feel in these situations, but definitely there is this, you do go from I to this feeling of unity with others, and then deeper, much more deeper into this sense of oneness with all.
Thank you, dear Susanne. I can feel how close it is to think about selfless service and this beautiful path of I to we to one. It's like the same thing. So thank you so much. I have another question that came directly to my chat, and it says, ego identity is keeping us from becoming one, but ego is required to survive in the world. So the problem lies with identity. Therefore, should we say from I to we to nobody?
In fact, at the end of the presentation, I did put from I, personal identity, to we, sameness.
Mm-hmm.
And when I showed the diamond, I did emphasize to know identity. Yes, absolutely, yes. Absolutely. It is very true. We need our ego to live in this world. We do need this. I feel that the key is our attachment to ego. If we are attached to our ego, if we identify with our ego, that is where the problems begin. Because then we are not able to be what we truly are. We are totally identified, we are totally connected with what we think, with what we feel, with what we think is true, and this really contracts us. It really makes our understanding of life, even our daily life, very, very narrow. It does not allow us to see beyond and embrace the more details and more truth.
Yes, it is something very tricky because
it's very subtle.
Yes,
very subtle. But if we work at it slowly, gradually, we can grasp this essence.
Yes. The point is the attachment. And here we have another question. do you have an example of how you implemented teaching children with self-control?
With self-control?
Mm-hmm.
The question comes all of a sudden, so I do not have an example right in front of my eyes. I mean, I'm very sorry. I would have to go back to see exactly, but I would be very happy to share some examples by email, because I'm sure I have many worksheets also dedicated to that I have carried out during the years. So if I have a little bit more time, I would be very happy to go back to that and to focus in that direction. I'm sorry, it doesn't come to me right now.
That's perfect. I'm sure that Jorge will understand it, and we are looking forward to your mail with those examples that I'm sure that you will find.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear. I give the word to our dear Vassiliki again.
Oh, may I say here, can you hear me, Susanne?
Yes, yes, of course.
May I say here that in our groups of children, what helps the children to have self-control is the first exercise, the first thing we do in silent sitting. We have noticed that it is difficult for children to close their eyes. They move their hands or feet, or sometimes they laugh, and they spoil the whole process. But slowly, and with loving attention and persuasion, we have managed to have our children quiet, sitting quietly and not moving. And then we can take them to selfless service to other children, and this is how they can control themselves and help other children and love other children that are in need in various ways. And that's how we can go from the I to we. This is one way.
Thank you, Vasili. Absolutely. Silent sitting is the key, especially today's children, lack of concentration, and they are so overstimulated by everything. And they really, this is something they really need to learn and to adopt as a daily practice. Absolutely. And it is all linked to that, because we know that through silent sitting, we go within. As we said before, the emotions take us outwards. So we need to help the children to go within, so this motion, this outward movement, can be neutralized.
Yes.
And this is fundamental. Absolutely. Silent sitting is the key. Definitely. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanne. Dear participants, now the time is 11 o'clock. We will have a short break of 5 minutes to relax a little bit, and then we can come back and have our dear Varsha that will guide us with her sweet voice, her deep voice. She will guide us to the depths of our inner self. So enjoy your break for 5 minutes. Thank you. Dear participants, we are back. I hope you enjoyed your short break. And now, I would like to invite our dearest Varsha to guide us in a silent sitting, in a meditation in the light, and help us go deep inside, cross the we, and be united to all be one. Hello, Varsha. Welcome to our
Hello,
session.
dear Vassiliki. How are you?
So we are ready to have our meditation in the light.
Thank you so much. Hello, dear friends. It is really a pleasure and honor for me to be here today to do the guided meditation on the light, a very, very important technique recommended by Satya Sai Baba. So we will start it right away. Okay, so let's sit comfortably. Keep the spine straight, the head, neck, shoulders relaxed, the chin parallel to the floor. Our hands gently lay on our lap. Let's take a few deep breaths. Breathing gently and deeply. Let's now take a deep breath and exhale all the stress and tiredness in the body. Now another breath to release the difficult emotions we might be dealing with. And now another to let go of all the fears. Let's now fix our gaze for a moment on the flame in front of us with our eyes half closed. Very gently close your eyes and let's visualize the flame in the center of our spiritual heart. And like a lotus bud that feels the warmth of the sun, our spiritual heart opens one petal after another, revealing even a more stronger and brighter light within. This radiant light is pure energy, and it helps us in every situation in life. Now, let's spread and expand the light to all the parts of the body, to our shoulders, arms, and hands. Our hands are filled with the pure positive energy. Feel the warmth of the light in the hands. And now, let's spread and expand the light from the heart down to the feet. And the feet are filled with the pure positive energy. Feel the warmth of the light in the feet. Now radiate the light and expand it from the heart, reaching the mouth. And the mouth is filled with the radiant, pure energy. Radiate it now to the ears. And the ears are filled with the radiant, pure energy. And gently now radiate the light to the eyes. And the eyes are filled with the radiant, pure energy. Finally, the light illuminates our mind. Our mind is filled with the radiant, pure energy. Let's silently affirm. Darkness cannot exist in the presence of light. Observe the whole body. Each and every cell is illuminated. Feel the radiance of the light. We are bathed in the radiant, pure energy. We are glowing. The strong, intense light radiates out, embracing our family members, friends, colleagues, neighbors, the ill, elderly, the needy, and even those people with whom we may have difficult relationships. Watch the light become wider and wider. The circle grows intense as it embraces more and more people. The light envelopes the whole city, the whole country, the whole world. Light enfolds all living and non-living. The plants, the forest, the animals, mountains, oceans, the sky, the moon, the sun, Mother Earth, all the planets and the universe, stretching out into infinity. In the silence, immersed in the light, let us remind ourselves, I am in the light. The light is in me. I am the light. Light permeates everyone and everything. As the light becomes intense, everything else very slowly fades away. There is only one light. Now focus and remain in silence and enjoy it. And now when you are ready, gradually bring the light down to your spiritual heart. Know that it is always there within you to guide, protect, and inspire you. And knowing this fills you with gratitude. And now become aware of your body by slightly moving your fingertips. Rub your hands to create energy. Gently cup your eyes to allow the energy generated in between the palms to infuse new awareness through the eyes. And slowly uncover your eyes. Gently open your eyes, stretch and smile. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dearest Varsha, for leading us to such a silence and love and happiness inside.
Thank you.
Dear participants, it's time to have our interactive workshop. We will have the questions and form the groups to discuss among us, and then have one representative of each group convey to all of us what the group has decided on the questions. Thank you. May we have the questions? Self-sacrifice increases as ego decreases, or in other words, our capacity to sacrifice and renounce to something of our own depends on how involved or absent our ego is. Question. First question, how can we make our vision broader and increase our capacity to expand through self-sacrifice? Is there a limit to expansion? Second question, share your experiences on contraction of ego and expansion of love. The break that we have to discuss the questions will be, as usual, 20 minutes. And then we will come back. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jorge. Thank you all groups, for your beautiful and interesting contributions. Now, I would like to invite again dear Susanne to say a few words to us. Susanne, please.
Thank you, dear Vassiliki, and thank you all, because it's been so wonderful to listen to your reflections. And this is exactly the aim of our sessions. We are not concerned with the theory, though we do, of course, highlight also the theory, but really we are always looking for ways to enhance our practice, our understanding, and as a consequence, our practice in our day-to-day lives. And of course, to be able to pass this on to children. And what I really think is a key, there are two keys. I like to call them recipes because they offer quick guidance. And one key is definitely, as we have already said also, or you have said in the groups, that we can feel the difference between contraction and expansion. And this is really a key to help us understand what we are going through, what is happening to us, if we are blocked or if we are open. So it's important to keep this in mind, that ego is contraction and love is expansion. And you have spoken about joy and to enjoy, and we know the beautiful expression of the founder of this program, that he says, another key, another recipe always remember joy. And as we do leave ourselves aside, we do open and we feel this feeling of joy. And what is joy? He says, to put Jesus first. Jesus, this divine incarnation, which represents love and compassion. So to put love first, our values first, and then others. So the J, Jesus, the O for others, and only at the very end, we put ourselves. So to put Jesus first, others, and then yourself. So I feel this too is a key, is a recipe, quick guidance that we can remember easily and that can help us become more aware and help us in our practice. So thank you all so very much.
Thank you, dear Susanne, for giving us this joy today. And now I would like our dear director, George, to speak to us.
We're glad to always to be with you and to share these high thoughts as an inspiration to implement in our daily life. And Susanne, it was very timely that she mentioned this wordplay of Satya Sai Baba with joy, because we are going to have now our Easter break, and both in some of us follow the Catholic Church, some the Orthodox. I think the Catholic Easter is after 2 weeks on the 9th, and then here in Greece and Orthodox countries, they will celebrate on 16th. And I think that the presentation that we had today was very appropriate, because the main message of Jesus is love and sacrifice. And when we think about him, these are the two things that come into our mind. And I think the best way to honor Easter is to try to implement these principles in our daily lives. Quote Jesus from the Gospel of John, he says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." And in order to make this love grow and expand, so much we talk today about this concept of self-sacrifice. And here I would like to share a personal experience with Satya Sai Baba. Before many years, I visited many times and I had the chance to have interaction with him. One time he called me and he asked me, "Where do you come from?" I said, "Greece." And then he said, "What is your religion?" I said, "It's Christianity." And then immediately he asked me, "What is the symbol of Christianity?" I said, "Cross." And then he asked, "What is the meaning of cross?" This is something that he often says. And I think it was presented by Vassiliki when we had the unity of faiths. So I knew the answer, and I said, the vertical line is the eye, and the horizontal line is to cross the eye. And Satya Sai Baba was smiling very happily as I had this message in my mind. And by this, he wanted to remind, because many people were around, they were hearing, and once again, he wanted to give this main message, which is very fundamental also for the human values. If we want to make the human values manifest from within us, the first thing that has to go away is the ego. And so it is good to close this part, this session, and also this part after Christmas till now, till this break. We had 6 sessions. And after the Easter break, we are going to have 4 more and to complete this year. So I think it is good with these thoughts, with this message of self-sacrifice and expansion from I to we to one, to welcome Easter and to celebrate and to honor this great festivity as it has to be, not just with social meetings, but having in mind the main message of Jesus. So I wish you all the best, and we look forward to meeting all of you again after the Easter break.
Thank you all. And now we are going to have a longer break, as George said, and we will meet again on the 29th of April, focusing on the subject selfless service. So I wish you all a happy holiday, loving friends, and I wish to all of us to expand our love to embrace all beings in the world.